As a preliminary matter, this is Dutroshen Joko, Chair of the Denver's Human Rights and Inclusion Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Charles Desmond.
Yes.
Bob Gamer.
Go ahead, Bob, you're unmuted.
Yes.
Bill Graham.
Yes.
Donna Hopkins.
Here.
Sally Cairns.
Here.
David McKenna.
I don't think David's with us. Oh, no, I apologize. He's here.
Paul Pollack.
I don't have audio. I'm on my cell phone.
I think Paul is having some technical difficulties. He's joining us shortly. Jorge Sanchez Salazar.
Here.
Kathy Sullivan Bradley. Pastor Douglas Voigt is unable to join us today. Eric Crane.
Oh, it was on mute.
I'm here.
Lieutenant Rob Sullivan. And Eileen Page.
I am here.
Good evening. This open meeting of the Denver's Human Rights and Inclusion Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gathering, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda material for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberation of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comments. For this meeting, the Denver's Human Rights and Inclusion Committee is convening remotely via the WebEx app as posted on the town website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Meeting material, all supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I noted otherwise. Let me talk about some meeting business ground rules. We are now turning to the second item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any reason or for any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through myself, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Second item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from July 30th, 2020. Sally is making a motion to approve the
Sally, I
minutes.
took you off mute. Sorry.
Motion to approve the minutes.
And Bob Gamer is seconding the motion.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? So I will call you, when I call your name, this is to vote to approve the minutes of July 30th, 2020. Carl Desmond,
I'm taking everyone off mute for this, so.
Charles Desmond,
Yes.
Bob Gamer,
I approve.
Dan, Anna Hopkins,
Approved.
Sally Cairns,
Aye.
Paul Pollack,
I
Jorge
think Paul's having audio trouble.
Sanchez Salazar,
I approve.
and I am approving as well. So the minutes of July 30th, 2020 are approved as presented. I will now move to the next item on the agenda, the third item on the agenda, which is our rainbow flag policy review. We don't have a draft of a policy that we wanted to present to the Board of Selectmen for consideration. Eileen, could you please read that draft?
Yes, happy to. So we fly the rainbow flag in Danvers to convey hope, peace, inclusion, and welcome. This affirmation is consistent with the June 2017 statement of the Danvers Human Rights and Inclusion Committee reaffirming Danvers as a safe community, which says, among other things, that we, quote, are committed to assuring that all persons in our town feel safe and welcome, and that we embrace and proclaim our cherished history by which Danvers welcomes all people. It is also consistent with the core values adopted by the Town of Danvers employees in February 2018. Indeed, the very first value was inclusion, with a commitment to respect diverse ideas, people, and perspectives. Our policy is to fly the rainbow flag year-round at Danvers High School, Town Hall, and the library, which represent the three main sectors of our local government. Additionally, during the month of June, we will fly the rainbow flag at the police department, both fire stations, the public works yard, the senior center, and at the other 6 school sites. We also encourage other local businesses, organizations, schools, and residences to fly the rainbow flag in support of all citizens and visitors to Danvers. David Mills also sent us a link that I've included in the meeting packet, a photo and a link published by the Salem Evening News about the importance of raising the rainbow flag in local municipalities. So I hope everyone has a chance to read that as well.
Thank you very much, Eileen. So I'll now call on each members for any comment, suggestions. I will start by Charles Desmond.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with the statement. I think it's very clear and makes the position of the committee clear. And I suggest that we go forward with the statement as amended by others who may have other words that they want to add.
Thank you. Bob Gamer.
Out of many. At the core of my beliefs, I love my brothers and sisters regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or gender. To exclude any group on the basis of those would be the same as excluding me. I think raising a rainbow flag is essential to our purposes in inclusion. I approve.
Thank you. Bill Graham. Bill, can you unmute yourself, please?
How do I do that?
Oh, you're unmuted now, Bill.
Okay. I think it's an excellent statement and we should approve it.
Donna Hopkins.
No, I think it's well written. I think it's in line with our mission and our goals, and I think it's nice.
Sally Cairns. Eileen, can you please unmute Sally?
It's unmuted. There we go.
Maybe we should just have a thing like it's 3 seconds and then you're unmuted, but whatever. I think it's very nicely written, and I love that you incorporated the safe community statement. I didn't realize that it wasn't going to be an all-encompassing flag policy. I'm happy with it. I thought that the town manager was looking for something, I don't know, a little bit more, any flag, anywhere, how high, what have you. But I'm very happy with this. Very happy with this. Yeah. Nice job, David and Bob.
I did see David McKenna. David McKenna, any comments?
Am I muted?
Yes, you are good.
You're muted.
All right. I think this is what we're here for, so I think it's great that the statement's being made. I think we should go forward.
Thank you. Paul Pollack, I know Paul is having some technical difficulty. I'm not sure if we can unmute him now.
I don't think he has any audio, actually.
Okay. Jorge Sanchez Salazar.
Yeah, I think it's great. I have no comment. I think it should go forward and be submitted, please.
Okay, I will now check with our liaison, Eric Crane. Any comments?
There we go. Only that it sounds like an appropriate idea, and I know the schools are certainly in favor of flying the rainbow flag, and there has been one outside of Danvers High School, and we would certainly be on board with the importance of doing this.
you. The Honorable David Mills.
Hi, everyone. Of course, I'm not a voting member. I'm simply a liaison. And by the way, I had no part in the drafting of this document. This came from Jen and the town manager and Dee. And I think it is wonderful. And yeah, and so I think if the committee approves it, I think, Dee, that what you do, or with you and Eileen, you send it along to the Board of Selectmen and ask if they would just tell them that whatever the vote is of this committee, and ask if they will endorse it as a town policy. I guess that's what would be the next step. I think it's a great statement, and I am very, very pleased with the language. And I do have one concern. Just keep in mind that everybody in Danvers is not in favor of the rainbow flag. It should not be called a gay flag, but it sometimes is. And no matter what it's called, many people will connect the rainbow flag with the gay movement, the gay reality. And lots of people are still not comfortable with that. So whatever we do as a committee, I suppose we're always going to have to be prepared for people who don't like us, don't like what we do, and don't like the rainbow flag. But I don't know if we believe, as David McKenzie, that's what we're here for. I say how wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I wholeheartedly support this statement as well. Do we go ahead and vote to adopt this draft as written to be able to present it to the Board of Selectmen for approval? Is that what we do now? Okay. Any further comments? No. Okay, so I'll do a roll call of all the members, and please let me know what your vote is in approving the statement as presented to be sent to the Danvers Board of Selectmen regarding a policy on the rainbow flag in town. Charles Desmond, what's your vote?
I vote to approve.
Bob Gaynor.
Approve.
Bill Graham.
Approve.
Donna Hopkins.
Mike approved.
Sally Cairns.
Approve.
David McKenna.
Approve.
And Paul Polak still can't hear me. Jorge Sanchez Salazar.
Approve.
And I am approve as well. So this statement will be put in nice paper, and I will find a way to send it to the Board of Selectmen for consideration. Thank you very much. I will now move to the fourth item on the agenda, which is the bumper sticker subcommittee updates. I'll pass the floor to Bill Graham to update us. I know they had a couple of meetings. Bill, take it away.
Well, actually, Eileen is the person who knows most what we've been doing. She's been taking all the minutes and sent them out. But at the last meeting, they put together a calendar of when we need to do things and get things out. And I know I've asked a couple other questions as to exactly what we want to make available and send out to people. So we need to discuss that as all people tonight.
Sure. Eileen, take it away then and give us an update with the bumper sticker subcommittee.
Sure. I don't want to take it away from the committee itself, though. So, Bob, did you want to present at all? I'm happy to, but if you'd like to, or Donna. Sorry, I'm sorry, Bob, you were on mute.
Yeah, I mean, I could give the timing of the initiative. In our subcommittee meeting, we agreed that October the 1st would be the date that we'd initiate this in the different venues, the different schools. And that Friday, on November 13th, would be the deadline for the final submission of the design to Eileen. So that would be the timing of that we arrived at. Eileen, I can hand it back to you to the different points that you have on this on the.
Sure. So one of the big things that we talked about pretty extensively is the process for both marketing and for how we're actually going to judge entries. For marketing, we know that this, the likelihood, some of the schools are going to be back in session, but we're going to have to rely pretty heavily on social media as well. So we wanted to also discuss a little later about the Danvers Human Rights Committee, the management of Facebook, if we have Instagram, Twitter, all of that. One of the things we did kind of discuss is a lot of, I feel funny saying it, but kids these days are not necessarily using Facebook, and they're our target audience. So we need to kind of find the best way to get to them. We will also be going through the school administration and using art teachers to spread the word, but we also want to make sure this is not an exclusively art student contest. We want to make sure we're getting out to any Danvers student. So further, we decided, well, not all students between 6th and 12th grade in Danvers are necessarily at a Danvers school. So we took a look at some of the other schools in the area, and we decided we're going, as well, in addition to Holton Richmond and the high school, we're also going to be spreading the word about this contest at Essex Tech, the Prep, St. Mary's, Bishop Fenwick, the Beverly School for the Deaf and Children's Center for Communication, and the Landmark School, because we have students at all of those schools as well. So this is we want to make sure this is really open to all students in Danvers, but not necessarily just the Danvers schools. So one of the other things we talked about is making sure, in the spirit of inclusion, that there's no unconscious bias in the judging process. So what will happen is the submissions will be sent to Town Hall, to my office. I will collect them, and students will have to send in their name, the school they're attending, their grade, because again, this is open 6th to 12th grade, and their contact information. But I will have a system where I redact any identifying information related to gender, race, anything like that. We want it to be a completely blind submission so that it's really being judged only on the content of the art, and to avoid any kind of unconscious bias in any way. So what will happen is all of the submissions will be presented to the subcommittee. We're going to also look into maybe asking an art teacher to sit in on the initial judgment. The goal is to get all of the submissions down to no more than 5 kind of final candidates, and then present it to the Human Rights Committee as a whole to pick the final design that we're going to actually produce on bumper stickers. So we have looked into the production and distribution. Bill Graham has done some research for us on what it will cost to actually produce the bumper stickers. We got some quotes for batches of 1,000 stickers, but I worry a little that we might be overshooting there. I'd like to maybe focus more on groups of 100. at first, and we had talked about kind of establishing a system for a pre-order situation where we would market it out to the community, and they could sign up to pre-order a sticker, and we won't actually place an order until we reach 100, so that we're not expending any funds that we don't know for sure we're going to get back. That phase is going to take a little more discussion. We have some time though, because like Bob mentioned, our deadline for submissions is not till November 13th. So I think in the meantime, we will be having further discussions. I'll also be talking to Jen Breaker to see what ideas she has maybe for the best way to manage that, as well as the Beverly Human Rights Committee, who we had discussed at our last meeting, has recently done their Unity Sign campaign, and they took pre-orders for that. So I want to kind of pick their brains a little further and hear their, lessons learned and what they would have done differently, what worked well for pre-orders. So I have been in touch with Leah on their committee over there. That's kind of the 30,000 foot view of this. I don't know if anybody we'd love to hear thoughts, questions, suggestions, anything, you feel we maybe need to look into deeper. Bob.
I just want to thank Eileen for the excellent job on the organization side. Really, kudos to you.
Thank you. Donna, did you have a?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Is that
it's a question about how we're going to be accepting the artwork in any format. I think we had talked about, but I'm wondering what costs or what process is going to be involved if someone isn't following a particular template to submit the artwork. Who's going to incur the cost of transferring that particular picture into something that can be printed in a bumper sticker? Is that making sense? You're muted, Jen.
Go ahead, Eileen.
Or that's sorry, Eileen.
Eileen, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry, I forgot. I worry about everybody else's mute except mine. So one of the things we had considered in terms of paper and trying to cut down on paper, we did talk briefly about how we want to receive submissions. When I send them to the board to the subcommittee for review, they're going to all be sent digitally. I don't want to expend a huge amount of resources printing paper copies, and I think the less physical things we're touching right now, the better. So they will be done digitally. What I did do a little bit of research on this, Donna, because I know you had some concerns about doing any paper recently. We are able to, if somebody submits a physical paper design, we are able to scan it into the computer, save it as a PDF or a JPEG or whatever format the printer will need from us.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can, even if it comes in physically, as a physical piece of paper, we can make it work.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to incur costs.
Yeah, I worried about doing only accepting digital artwork for a couple reasons. One is, we haven't necessarily dictated what kind of medium this has to be. Maybe one kid is into watercolor or things like that. The other thing is I don't know that everybody would necessarily have access to I don't know a lot about digital art, but I imagine there are certain programs out there like Adobe Illustrator, and I worry that some kids don't have access to that. But hopefully everybody has access to physical art supplies in one way or another. I see Sally and Bill.
Sally, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick question, Jen. I agree with you on Instagram. Facebook is for we older folks. Will you also, it will be promoted in the Herald Citizen and the Salem News, correct?
We actually hadn't talked about that as much. Bob or Donna or Bill, do you want to weigh in on that?
Newspapers, I mean, I think I suggested Instagram, which is, you know, the media platform I would say most students use, as well as putting it in the newsletters that the school distributes. You know, pumping the publicity out so that they're reminded.
Couldn't hear, Bob. I couldn't hear. Are you saying yes to put a put a press release to the local papers, or no? I would say yes.
Yeah, but I wonder how many students read either of those publications.
Well, their parents will.
The parents will, but you know, we want to get to the target. We want to get to these students. And, you know, I think the platforms like Instagram are the main vehicles, primarily Instagram, maybe even tweets. You know, they look at those too. But also, you know, making sure that, you know, I know the school does a newsletter, you know, with announcements, that we also include, you know, reminders in those in the newsletters, so that, you know, we get constant, you know, students will get a constant stream of reminders, keep their attention. We can put those in the evening news, and I mean, it won't hurt.
I have no audio.
Everybody's,
I'm sorry, I keep muting myself to
Can't hear
avoid the
anything.
feedback. I will do a little research into the cost of advertising in the paper, and we can revisit it. Oh,
No. Oh,
Sally?
excuse me. I misspoke. Not a paid advertisement. Oh goodness, no. I meant just a press release to announce it, so that if you're a parent and your kids are not in the Danvers schools and you're somehow not captured by these other, or even if your kids are, I just thought it would be a nice thing to do, a notice, if you will, to the Herald, Citizen, and the Salem News. That's all, but not for pay.
okay. Yeah, so my only experience with the physical papers, it has been having to pay to put something in. Do they accept press releases or notices unpaid?
Oh,
They do.
sure.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
sure.
I just haven't had experience with that yet, so that's really good to know. I will make a note of that then.
They'll welcome it, Eileen. They'll be grateful to get something. If you write it in a press release these days, they'll pretty much run what you've written.
Okay, great.
Yeah, they'll be glad to have it.
All right, awesome. I will make a note of that then, and so maybe I'll type something up to send out to and I'll send to Bob, Donna, and Bill in the next day or so.
And Eileen, I can help you with that. I've done those before.
Perfect. Awesome.
Charles Desmond, any comments?
No, I think that the procedure that you're discussing makes an awful lot of sense. I support the enterprise completely.
Bill Graham?
Okay, several comments here. One is the action that I think we could take tonight would be to approve the schedule that has been presented to you, and to improve, you know, which schools we're open to. I think that could be done as our whole committee tonight. We need to decide, some group, exactly what is going to be made available to the students, the size of the bumper sticker, what kind of media they can use, and some kind of notification of how it'll be judged. And I'd really like to see more than just an art teacher along with our subcommittee looking at those final five, like an administrator. And we had several people, you know, like our superintendent and vice president and the Lions Peace poster contest. So they got a pretty good idea of what they're looking at. So if we could get, maybe Mary Warranty would be an excellent person to help judge. But that would have to be delegated to our subcommittee. All we could do tonight is the time schedule and things, and how we're going to advertise the actual students.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. David McKenna.
I think it's great to get the program out there, and I think that a press release, even though the kids won't probably read the press release, their parents will. And you talk about Instagram, which I know nothing about, but I guess that's what the kids use. Only us old farts use Facebook anymore, I guess. But I think it's good to get. We need to get the kids involved. It's a good way to do it, and the more we get the word out to them through their parents or whatever, the better.
Thank you. Jorge Sanchez Salazar.
I think it's a great idea. I will talk to my daughter about, how we can get this out on the gram, what she thinks about it. Just go right to the source. I'll ask her. I'll get back to you. It can't be that tough.
Okay. Thank you. I know we have our liaisons who are not voting members, but they could have some great comments. Eric Crane.
Yes, Dee, I would say that the art teachers are going to be more than happy to help out. I think everyone knows that annually they help coordinate the electric company's calendar, which involves student artwork, very similar to what you're doing here. So I'm sure the art teachers within the system would be happy to help and will be cooperative with you. It sounds like a great idea.
Lieutenant Rob Sullivan. Hello.
Hi everyone. Sorry I'm late joining the meeting this evening. Apparently I can't tell time. What I jumped in on the end there sounds excellent. And we also have school resource officers in the high school, the middle school, as well as the tech. So I'm sure we could get support from them in getting the word out to all of those students.
How about David Mills? Any comments?
David, I'm sorry, you were on mute.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that Bill Graham and Bob Gamer and Eileen have really taken this about 9 notches up. And I am really, really thrilled. I'm thrilled and impressed because I so believe in the concept. And, I told you about going from, celebrate diversity to coexistence to inclusion, and how significant that it is. And also the way that initially, we had talked about having this as like a high school project. And I think it was Donna who took the lead in saying, wait a second, this should be opened up to, to any number of any kids that would be interested. What a great idea that is. That another way of publicizing the work of this commission, the committee. And so I just think that's great. What a nice piece of work. And I'm very grateful to everybody for the input and the enthusiasm. Thank you.
So is it my understanding that tonight what we want to do is to try to approve the schedule presented and the schools that are included in the contest? Is that correct? So before we move forward with a vote to approve the schedule as presented, and I understand the details as to, the press release will have to be written. We'll do a press release and Instagram, Facebook, notes from the school to the students and the parents. So we have different avenues to communicate and spread the information out there. But tonight we want to approve the schedule as presented and approve of the fact that all these schools mentioned will be part of the contest. Any comments? Yes, Bob.
Yes, you all heard the list of schools. Does anyone have a suggestion of any other school that Danvers schools attend, that the Danvers residents attend, that we may include? There's Governor Dummer, Pingree.
What about St. John's Prep and Bishop Fenwick?
They've both been included.
Oh, good, thank you, okay.
I think I'm thinking about the Yom HaShoah ceremony that we've been part of, and a couple of years ago, a group of Holton Richmond students excelled in the scholarship. Excuse me, it was an essay contest. And among the schools, so Holton Richmond, it was held in Peabody, and the other school that did very, very well was Brookwood School. And I do see signs around town occasionally for Brookwood School. That's a K through 8. And then for, I don't know, the other high, is this mainly this is all grades, right?
We are doing 6th through 12th grade.
Okay, so I would throw in the Brookwood. I don't know how old the kids in Danvers who go there are, but it's sixth grade and up.
Okay.
Pingree is not 6 and up. The prep is, of course, but Pingree is high school. So yeah. So only St. Mary's 6 through 8, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Good.
And they have an affiliation with Bishop Fenwick.
Yes.
For the high school. So.
Okay, perfect. David McKenna had a comment.
Yeah, I'm sure in these dark days we get a lot of kids being homeschooled. Do we have a way of including them?
I'll tackle this one. So we do. I think we are, unfortunately, we're limited in, the outreach we can do in the schools themselves. So we are really going to rely on email lists, newsletters, social media. My initial thought was that social media might not be as effective with some of the middle schoolers, but in talking to a couple of my neighbors, it is actually, the kids are on social media, already. So I do feel confident in pushing it on social media. I think the message will get out there. And like Sally mentioned too, with using the paper and things like that, we're going to rely on parents as well to see something and say something to their kids. One of the other things we had talked about is looking into printing flyers and just asking some local businesses if we could put one up. Kids are, even if they're homeschooled, they're still going out for coffee and to grab at Kathmandu and places like that. So we had talked about kind of spreading the word in that way and just trying to be as in your face as we can, even though we can't actually get into the schools themselves. And a lot of it's going to be really reliant, unfortunately, on other administrators and art teachers and parents. And we're just going to have to do the best we can with the times we're in. But I do feel like social media is going to be pretty effective. And then it's also another conversation topic we had put on the agenda for tonight, when we get there, because we wanted to delve a little deeper into social media management and kind of take this as a time to really ramp it up and use it to get our message out, because this is a great time to do it.
So from my on the statement, should we add including Danvers residents who are homeschooled on the list of schools that are eligible for the contest, just to make it clear? So we probably should add at the end there including Denver's residents who are homeschooled.
I can certainly, when we put together a flyer or emails, we could always put something on there that says this contest is open to any Danvers resident between 6th and 12th grade. Maybe we, eliminate the word student in that regard, so that they don't think of it as Danvers school students, but rather Danvers residents. I've got you off mute.
How would they get the requirements? I mean, be able to send, a document to these school students, or to the students, say at Phillips Academy, Pingree, or whatever school they attend.
There are local, I don't know what they're called exactly, to be honest, but like homeschooling associations that are actually official groups that parents can belong to. One of my very best friends all through middle school and almost through high school was homeschooled, and I know her parents were heavily involved in a group like that. So I'm sure that's maybe just a Google search away. If we wanted to look into that more deeply too.
Okay, Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe just putting an actual age instead of a grade. Because that takes all of the school out of it. So homeschool would be just as inclined to want to do it as children in the schools.
So do you mean put an age and take out the list of schools?
No, we can leave the schools, because that's how we're going to disseminate the information, from what I understand. But instead of 6th through 12th grade, I don't know how old you are in 6th grade, maybe something like 12 to 18 years old, open to anybody in Danvers in this age range. Because that way nobody's going to feel like, oh, I don't go to one of these schools, I can't do this.
Yes, Sally, comment?
I agree, Donna. I think that's a nice, for the schools, put grades, but the free media will really be helpful in this way. I suspect that homeschooling families they make an effort to find out what's going on in the community. They will read their calendars. You might also submit it as a calendar item to the papers, and with the deadline for submissions, and then maybe they could email you, Eileen, I imagine you're going to put a specification for a JPEG that is so many diameter and whatever resolution, and they'll just send that off to you or wherever.
Yeah, we haven't actually talked about specific sizes yet for JPEGs and art files and things like that. It probably is something we should consider. Donna, Bob, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've discussed that specifically yet, have we? No? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Eileen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so are we then putting the schools and then adding the ages, any Danvers resident from age 12 to 18? Is that what we're voting on tonight?
You need a vote for that?
Okay.
I don't know that we necessarily need a vote for that. I think, and again, subcommittee, correct me if I'm wrong, we were more just looking for some feedback, here's our initial proposal. What are your thoughts? Let's dissect a little bit, and then we will reconvene and, have another meeting, take that into consideration if there were any major changes.
Okay.
Am I kind of on target with that, subcommittee?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. Any further comments about the bumper sticker subcommittee updates? Anyone else? Okay, Charlie, can you unmute Charlie, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're, you know, diversity and inclusion. I'm concerned that we list a specific number of schools. I really think we need to open it up so that any parent who has a child, I support the language between certain ages, which says regardless of the type of school that you may send your child to, there's an opportunity for you to contribute to this message that we want to be inclusive of our entire community. So, so I think when you're a diversity and inclusion committee, you have to constantly be we have to constantly be ensure that we're recognizing a large tent that's extremely inclusive. So mentioning names of schools means if I don't go to one of those schools, I may not think that I'm appropriate or eligible. And I think we want to ensure that every parent who has a child within these age frames, regardless of the school that they attend, should be able to make a recommendation if they want to do so.
Charlie, if I can just clarify, we actually, so it's not necessary, these names of schools are not necessarily going to go out on any media saying if you attend one of these schools. This was more, listing these schools was more of a proposal for the committee, for us to say, these are the schools we're looking at, like really ramping up targeting. But it's not to say at all that, you know, oh, if your child attends one of these schools, they can participate.
Okay. Thank you. That helps a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Bob, go ahead.
And I just wanted to pay particular attention to the students who are learning disabled, like those attending the Beverly School and deaf. I mean, we need to be inclusive of those students as well. So the names of those schools are mentioned.
Oh, thank you. Any further comments? Oh. So I think the subcommittee has a lot of, you did get a lot of input, and you'll continue the work, and we will reconvene to finalize how the project is going to be run. Perfect.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is number 5, website and social media management. That leads into—
Steve, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Just because Steve has just joined us, and it is 8 o'clock, would you be comfortable jumping down to his update and then going back to the website?
Sure. Hi, Steve. Welcome on board.
That's very kind of you guys. I don't get that kind of treatment at home. I appreciate that.
So I would suggest that we go to item number 7 and get the town manager update. I did meet recently with the town manager to hear about some work that the town is doing around diversity and inclusion and racism. And the town manager has tasked a group of employees, including himself, to look into some broad categories around inclusion and diversity. So I'll pass it on to the town manager to update us as to what the task force is about. Steve, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dee. I will. I think I have the screen, but I guess the screen is the new floor in the COVID world. I appreciate
have the screen.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me join your call. Jen and I met with Dee and David Mills a little while ago to talk a little bit about what we've been working on at the staff level. Really quick context. So after the murder of George Floyd, we put out a statement as a community. Dee signed on to that, as did the chair of the board of selectmen and the chief of police and myself. And the statement was really meant to do two things. It was to show that you can be open to reforming a service like police and still be supportive of the police, that those are not mutually exclusive ideas. And we got some really nice feedback from members of the community who, for one reason or another, or many reasons, were moved by the statement and wanted to reach out to us to learn more about how they could be involved or what we could do. And those emails and phone calls sort of were the final nudge I needed to start a discussion at the staff level that's been on my mind for a couple of years. And that has to do with the fact that, Danvers is, by the numbers, a predominantly white community, 91%, according to the most recent, census information. But when you break that down into people, that means that we have somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 non-white people living in our community. And that is not what our workforce looks like. That is not what our town meeting looks like. That is not what the folks who reach out to us and engage with us and come to our meetings look like. And so we at the staff level started discussing kind of two things. What can we do organizationally to get our arms around these facts? And then within the community. And I did listen in to the last meeting that you guys had, and I was excited to hear an idea. And you probably haven't even had a chance yet to talk about this as a committee, but one of the members was discussing maybe using every other meeting of this body as a way to engage with the community and try to bring, some of the underrepresented parts of our community to the table to have a discussion and talk about their experience and help us understand, where we're doing right, where we could be doing better, and the like. So really what we're working on is at the staff level is it's organizational. We're looking, just anecdotally, I was excited. we're trying to figure out how to be more intentional about hiring and balancing out the workforce, both in terms of, by gender and by race, to make sure that the workforce we put forward does reflect the community that we all serve. And just as an anecdote, we have a lot of recruitment going on right now, and we kind of made the decision on the fly a month ago that we were going to start making the cover letters and resumes blind. So we've been redacting all identifying information from those cover letters that could tip off whether this was a male or a female, whether this was a Hispanic person, a Black person, a white person, or whatever. And what we have right now are 3 management level positions, and 2 of the 3 top candidates are female, and there's a woman running for the the 3rd position. And it may very well have been that it would have turned out exactly the same had we not done that. But those are the low hanging fruit examples. I think the trickier things have to do with policy, have to do with bylaws and the like. And so I guess to kind of summarize where we are today, we've identified a need for data. As with most efforts like this, you need to understand the data before you can start to make informed decisions. So we're looking at from the community level all the way down to the composition of our appointed versus elected boards and committees, our staffing by department, our school-aged children, to really understand what those pie charts look like when you line them all up, to see how we're doing from a pure headcount perspective. The more complicated piece is, and this is the piece where I think this group we can complement with what you guys are doing, is we don't have a lot of conversations with the underrepresented parts of the community, and we need to understand, again, not to repeat myself, how we're doing. And I think once we start to do that, then we can have informed discussions about policies and informed discussions about services to make sure that we do and that we are offering services that meet the needs of everybody who lives in Danvers or comes to Danvers. So on September 15th, we're going to be speaking to the Board of Selectmen. I gave them an update at their last meeting that we were going to have a brief presentation that we wanted to run through with them. That meeting will be at the Holton Richmond Middle School. I haven't asked the official yet, but if he's available that night, I would love to have him join us. For the Selectmen's meeting, I'm going to bring some of the staff members who have been participating thus far to that meeting to start that conversation with the board about where we are today, what we think we need, what we know we need to know, or what we know we don't know, and get that process started. So I'd be happy to take questions, but I do appreciate, Dee took the time out. I know I feel like I'm busy. I think Dee is about 10 times busier than I am day in and day out, but he took the time to jump on the call and had some great ideas. And so we're excited. It feels like important work. And, the events this summer gave us the shot in the arm we needed to get serious about it. So.
Thank you, Steve. I will go down the list of members for any questions or comments. I'll start by Charles Desmond.
No, I'm very encouraged by the process that you're implementing. I think by simply being vocal about this sends a very strong message, and I think it will resonate well with everyone in Danvers. Thank you very much for the great job.
Thank you.
You were on mute. Dee, could you repeat that?
Bob Gamer.
I heartily welcome, your communication. I find it's very necessary at this point, especially during the temper of times. But when you look at high school, particularly, and the number of Afro-Americans who were on the teaching staff, number of Jews who were on the teaching staff. You're right. We live in a homogenous community. We have to broaden that. It's necessary. It's vital. And I strongly approve of what you're doing. And thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Bill Graham.
I very much appreciate, Steve, what you're trying to do in the town. I think it's necessary, and keep at it.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Donna Hopkins.
No. Sorry. I think there's some really good moves forward here, and we just need to keep that momentum going. So it's nice to hear that it's being recognized and acknowledged.
Thank you. Sally Cairns.
I want to also indicate my my approval, my feeling of encouragement. I think that's really positive, Steve, and I think just saying it out loud, just saying that we have work to do in our community to make it reflective of the population is it's important, and so I applaud that and hope that you'll kind of continue to collaborate. Like, this is great. I don't think we've ever had you at a meeting for more than a hello. So I don't mean that critically. This is great. Let's do more of this. And yeah, let's work together, and kudos. I think it's great. I hope that you'll are you going to announce it, or did I miss a story in the Salem News? Will there be, how will you?
Well, we're going to start, like I said, on September 15th, we'll be doing an actual presentation to the Board of Selectmen. And we'll probably put that presentation, we're done with it. The Salem News is a sad, it creates sadness to let you know that our beloved Ethan Foreman is moving on from the Salem News. And I for one, haven't figured out how I'm going to live my life without him at the Salem News. But we can certainly let the Salem News know what we're up to, whoever they assign to us next. But no, I think, Sally, on September 15th, when I've had this conversation already with a number of the board members. The chair is excited, and David, I don't want to speak for David, but that meeting. And I did brief them at the end of the last selectmen's meeting, and very generically about what we were working on coming before that in September. And I think that'll be the kickoff.
Can I just throw one other item in there?
Sure.
We had talked, and I still haven't been able to get a response from the person, but we've talked about bringing doing a Zoom or bringing a social justice educator here. And if that were an initiative of the whole town, that would be really cool.
Yeah,
So-
and if I could remind Dee, if I take another, Sally just reminded me of something I probably should have mentioned at the outset, which is that we've sort of focused through, we've had a couple of meetings and really just been kind of kicking ideas around, and we've identified sort of 4 areas. One is the need for data, which I mentioned. The second, which is where I think there's a lot of synergy with this committee, is the community conversations and the listening and the getting feedback, because I think that there's nothing like lived experience to help inform the decisions that will make data great. But having people's actual stories is key. And the third area is, which is I think what you're talking about. And I think we could absolutely, the town could partner with this committee to work on a series of discussions or workshops or presentations once we know what. I don't think there's any reason for this group to wait if they have some ideas already. But the goal would be that the data and the discussions would help sort of formulate what those opportunities and offerings should be. And then the final piece is policy, and that's more internal, but that's where we want data and we want feedback so that we can improve, strengthen, change policies we have, whether those are general bylaws or simply personnel, benefits and the way that we offer benefits, how we define, and you can get very granular, but from top to bottom, I think those are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve. David McKenna, any comments?
Sure, am I still muted? All right, I guess I'm unmuted. Steve, I think it's great that you're setting these policies. However, I'm just concerned that a process where you have your applications totally blind may be self-defeating, because if you're trying to encourage the hiring of minorities, you've got to know which applications are minorities, or you can very likely overlook them. You've got to have so few anyway, being that the town is so homogenous. Just a strict policy of I can't think what they call it now, where they hire someone just because they're a minority, whether they're qualified or not, obviously doesn't work. But if you want to encourage minorities to be part of your workforce and your team, you have to know that the applicants are minorities in order to be able to select them. So a totally blind application may not be helpful. I don't know.
There's probably a lot of experimentation that will happen along the way. One of the points I'm just going to keep being reminded of things as we go. But I'm going to be meeting in late September with a group of town managers from the Boston region, and the topic of discussion is hiring for diversity, and we're talking about everything from doing job fairs at historically Black universities to try to put ourselves out there so that folks know that there are opportunities. We, to a certain extent in our public service world, we're limited by geography. So your employee, catch basin is only so big. But there's certainly more we can be doing within our region to position ourselves better. And I think it's an easy sell, because you want to make sure that you have as many applicants in any pool as you can find. And so it leads to a stronger organization. And there's plenty of, I don't need to explain to you guys that there's plenty of data that shows that the more diverse your work team, the better the outcome, the better the product, the more efficiency, the more creative. So it sells itself, but we have work to do.
Thank you. Jorge, any comments?
Yeah, I think this is pretty awesome. We're even talking about this in terms of getting more diversity in town hall. I think David, you were talking about McKenna. You're talking about affirmative action. That sounds, that's always got a bad connotation. I know in some states it's illegal. I don't know about Massachusetts, but yes, there's going to have to be some sort of experimentation, like you were saying, Steve. I think this is awesome. I'm excited to, have be able to participate in this. I'm looking forward to the September meeting. Thanks.
Thanks for
Well, I don't know if any of our liaisons have any comments. Eric?
Yeah, I would say, Steve, I think it's a great idea, and this can be an example for the town, an example for all the town departments. I've noticed in the last several years, we are getting a greater level of diversity in town, but it still hasn't reached that critical mass where for someone who moves into this town who is a member of a minority group, where it probably feels easy for them. And hopefully that's the way we want to go. So the idea of sort of making our workforce look more and more like the town, I think is fantastic. So I applaud you for it. And I know you'll certainly have the school department support in that as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lieutenant Rob Sullivan?
I agree. It sounds like an excellent idea, and it's something we've talked about for a number of years at the police department, trying to make the department more diverse. And like the town manager was saying, the hiring process for some of these jobs can be difficult, and some of the rules and regulations we have to fall into to hire people doesn't always allow us to get the greatest pool of potential applicants. So anything that can be done to widen that and make our department at the police side more diverse would be outstanding.
Thank you. The Honorable David Mills?
I'm not so honorable anymore. I'm retired. I am very proud. I was on the Board of Selectmen that selected Stephen Barther as the town manager. And every day, I am amazed and thrilled. This topic is really important to me. As you all know, you've heard my story. For 50 years, I hid in a closet living in my hometown of Danvers. It wasn't my hometown. It was the place where I lived. David McKenna took the lead some 30 years ago, forming whatever the hell we were called at that time, which has turned into our inclusion committee. I've seen so much change. I'm so grateful. Steve's leadership, not just Steve, but the people that he has gathered around him to run this town, blows my mind. And this committee, I'm very proud to be liaison. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
We're getting some audio difficulties here, so sorry to the audience. I think I did call on everyone. Eric, you have one more comment?
This is on your audio difficulties. What's happening is, Dee, because if you're not muted and someone else is not muted, there's feedback coming through your speakers, and so it's creating that crosstalk effect. So as long as, I know it's tough, it's such a lot to do tonight, Eileen. I applaud you for managing this.
Yeah, what I've been doing is jumping around. Whoever is not talking, they're on mute, and I'm trying to watch D to as soon as he starts to talk, he's off mute. So so I'm trying to, I apologize for a little bit of a delay. I'm trying to keep up with it. But that's exactly what Eric said. That's why there's a little bit of a delay in audio right now.
You are doing great, Eileen. It's
Thank you.
Wonderful. So anyway, thank you.
Okay. Bob Gamer, you have any?
I want to add that, in the stand-in for George Forster that we organized, we had close to 500 people show up. I mean, that's a sign of something. I mean, it shows that Danvers is ready for this. And Steve, I think the town taking a direct role is absolutely awesome. So I'll end there.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. And we're looking forward to the presentation in September and to continuing to work alongside the town for the reasons that we all spoke about. Does anybody else has any, Donna, have any other questions?
Yeah, Steve, I wanted to thank you also for Eileen. She is fantastic. She is positive and she's enthusiastic, and I appreciate it. So thank you so much. I think she's helped our group immensely, and I just want you to know we acknowledge that. She's wonderful. So thank you. And thank you, Eileen.
Thank you, Donna.
I will now get back onto I'll go to the sixth item on the agenda, which is the liaison updates.
Okay, I'm going to say goodnight.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Nice, Steve. Thank you,
David,
Steve,
I will
for
be in
being here.
touch as we approach the 15th. I'll be in touch with both of you. So
thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight. Good luck.
Thank you. So I will go to Eric Crane for any school committee update.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Eric.
Excuse me. This has been what I have to say is a challenging spring for the school, spring and summer, really. Right now, from the school department's aspect, it is a somewhat, I don't want to say a charged atmosphere, but there's a lot of concern to start with about the return to school. And parents and members of the town who all have different ideas about the way in which students should return and if students should return right away and how safe will people be has really become, you'll see through looking at the social media, it's become a very difficult topic for folks, and tensions in some cases are high. I think we're managing it well, but it would certainly be good for this committee to understand that there's a heightened tension because of that, superimposed on the fact that we have a very hotly contested and emotional election going on, superimposed on some other things that are happening within the schools. And so I would say it has been a very challenging spring and becoming a challenging summer for us as we go forward. I do want to bring to the committee's attention where we are in terms of something that's very important for this committee to understand, and that has to do with the following. And I'll preface this by saying that I will discuss what I can discuss. There's an awful lot that I cannot be completely specific about, but I will try and share as much as I can. Essentially, in June, there was a senior parade for the graduates. At that time, the graduation ceremony itself had been canceled. There seemed to have not been any chance for students to really celebrate together. So there was a parade that was planned that would run from I believe ran from the Holton Richmond down to the high school. And students were allowed to, ride together in their cars and sort of celebrate together, properly socially distanced from one another. And what happened is one of the cars in that parade, the lead car, after the parade began, when they were sort of away from the adults organizing it, someone unfurled a flag that supported a particular candidate. And the fact that this happened during what was supposed to be a celebration for seniors angered parents and some students, and parents came forward with some concerns of what I would describe an unfriendly culture toward certain students or certain groups at Danvers High School, and some conduct on the part of certain students that would go against our core mission and our core values. The administration was sufficiently concerned enough that they first of all investigated themselves and also referred the matter to the Danvers police. who assisted us with an investigation. And ultimately, there was no criminal conduct identified, but we did feel that some of what was being said and had gone on violated, as I say, what we consider our core values. And so there was a sort of a student discipline process that was followed, and we felt that appropriate measures were, I don't want to say punishment, but an appropriate response for the particular students was undertaken by the administration. And so as a result, after that, it was relatively quiet. I think there were some parents in town who were concerned about the fact that they weren't given more information about what precisely happened and what the response was. But again, we are limited in especially if you're dealing with any students or minors. And there were certain privacy concerns, so that you have to almost take us at our word that there was a proper response to this. At least in my view as a school committee member, there was a proper response. Graduation takes place in August. It went very, very well. And but shortly after that, I think most of you are aware that there were some social media posts that took place on the Danvers page and on some private students' pages. And it opened up a discussion point between students primarily about their experiences at Danvers High School. And for us, it raised concerns about the way that cultural issues and differences were being, I don't want to say dealt with by the school, but primarily how students were relating to each other in those ways. And also how students with mental health issues were being addressed at the high school, both in terms of their peer-to-peer relationships and were we doing a good enough job in addressing those needs for students. We take it seriously. We have always tried to foster an atmosphere at the high school where any sort of bullying is not allowed, any sort of people being treated differently because they are different or being bullied because they are different is simply not acceptable. And we have always had what we felt was a zero tolerance policy. But in light of what's been raised by the former students, we feel it's serious and worth a deeper look into what has happened and what is happening. What is our atmosphere? How does it feel to be a member of a different racial group, or to be other oriented in terms of sexuality, LGBTQ? How are students who are different being treated by their peers at Danvers High School and in the school system generally? It is an important issue for me and for others, for, in some cases, personal reasons, in some cases, just because we want the best of our students and we want to get the best out of our students. And so Monday at our school committee meeting, we will be talking about how we are going to address this. What I can tell you is that we're going to address it seriously, in the sense of this is not something we're just going to sort of take a quick look at, react to, I think, just internally. We are going to try and take a deep dive and treat this as a period of reflection and opportunity to see what we can do better that we're not doing now. And so the assurance I can give you is that I will continue to update this committee on our efforts, and we'll continue to talk about what's happening in a public way to the extent that we can. But again, we want to make things better. On a personal note, I think some of this is spinning up simply from the atmosphere in the country right now. And we like to think of Danvers as perhaps a little isolated. It's a town that those of us who live here and have lived here our whole lives, I think we really love this town. and we think well of this town, but we're not immune to the controversies and the difficulties that we are seeing all throughout the country right now. And sadly, neither is our school. And I think it's going to take input from this committee, from students, from parents. This has to be something that the town sort of sets our own standard of conduct that we will hold each other to as a way of making Danvers a welcoming town for everybody who lives here. So that's what's going on with us. Again, I can't answer too many specific questions, but I'm happy to take any feedback that you have.
Thank you, Eric. So just as a procedure, I mean, do I just go down the name of members for any comments? Is that?
You can, yeah. I think that's probably the most organized way to do it in a meeting like this.
Charles Desmond?
Well, I'm glad to see that that there's discussions at the administrative level and at the trustees level with regards to being attentive to these matters and paying attention and being involved and being public about it. I think the most critical thing that the town has to do and is doing is being public about the discourse concerning these kinds of issues. It's when these things are transparent and in the open, there's less opportunity for the kinds of behind the scenes problems that you seem to be addressing right now. So I'm encouraged that you're on top of it, that you're being open about it as much as you can, and letting the public know that, you know, people who are in positions of authority are concerned about this and they're doing everything that they can to get it under control.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you. Bob Gamer?
You know, this is a cultural, you know, reflective of a cultural issue. I think it's reflective of the leadership of this country. When the commander-in-chief, when the president of this country refers to an African country as an S-hole, when in a conversation with a member of his staff, he said, well, you know, Puerto Rico is poor and dirty, so let's trade it for Greenland. You know, what the leadership is doing is empowering these sentiments that are being expressed, so that the need to address them, especially in our homogenous community, is absolutely acute. We should do so, and in a systematic manner. I know at some high schools, and this is out of the news, have instituted courses on ethics. You know, I think that's a suggestion. I mean, we really need to get to the heart of this, and we need to do it right now.
Thank you, Bob.
Hey, Dan?
Go ahead, Bill. You're off mute.
I'm sorry. I thought I said no comments.
Donna Hopkins?
I don't know, other than the issue that you and I discussed earlier, Dee. The only thing I had a problem with, and Eric, I appreciate you coming and being very upfront with us now, but I didn't like when it hit the press that we were kind of thrown in kind of as a tag in on the end. And it looked like we had been involved in this the whole time when in fact nobody had been approached by anybody. Most of the committee members heard about it on social media. So that was just something that I personally had an issue with. I don't know if others felt the same way, but it came as a total surprise to us. And then I read in the paper that you're working with us on that. And I kind of was a little taken aback by that. That was just a personal feeling that I had. So I'm speaking for myself, not the
Sure.
committee.
No, thank you.
Sally?
I concur with what Donna said. It's a very difficult issue. I do not think, sadly, that Danvers is alone in this kind of thinking, behavior. small number of people in the larger scheme of things. It's very disturbing. And Eric, thank you. And I know that you and your fellow school committee members are really earning those incredible salaries that we pay school committee members. I watched the meeting a couple of weeks ago. You're all working very hard. I do appreciate that, but I also, I agree wholeheartedly with Donna. I like to think that this committee is the first place, it would be the first stop on the path to dealing with something like this, you know, administration to committee. We've kind of always had that with Bill Carlton going back and the police. And so, yeah, that was a little disappointing that we kind of found out later and we weren't, as far as I knew. Now, maybe I'm not chair, maybe there were other conversations, but I going forward, I would hope that this committee would be viewed as a resource, as a source of assistance, and let it, you know, thrash it out, and how can we be helpful, and so forth. And I know it's not easy, so that's what I've got.
Thank you, Sally. I certainly, and also Donna, certainly keep that in mind going forward. I think part of it, again, was the fact that the initial stuff was basically, you know, an investigation that was specifically aimed at specific conduct going on through the police. I think that what this committee can really help going forward with is that bigger picture of how this relates to the town as a whole, and what ideas we can have to address this to the town as a whole. But I certainly take what you're saying seriously, and I appreciate the feedback.
Dee, I'm sorry, you'll have to say that again. You were on mute.
David McKenna.
Okay, I guess I'm unmuted. Unfortunately, the reports on this have all been so vague that it's really difficult to know for certain what transpired or what the issues were. You mentioned that a banner for a candidate went up. I would have to assume which candidate it was, and someone else has already spoken to that subject. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of issues in this country that, unfortunately, our current president is doing nothing to alleviate. They've been simmering and getting worse for the last 12, 15 years, maybe even longer. And we got a long way to go to resolve them. I'm not sure, again, like I said, I don't know exactly what the situation was with the parade because it has been so vague. But we got a lot of work to do, and I'd like to see the committee be as involved as possible in this early up front, so we know what we're dealing with. And yes, I agree with, I think it was Sally, I think we should triple the salaries of the school committee immediately. And maybe add hazardous duty pay as well. But, you know, this problem is not going to go away. It's been a long-standing problem, and we got a lot of work to do to resolve it. That's why I started this committee all those many years ago. God, it's been a long time. It doesn't seem like we're making a whole lot of progress some days. Thank you.
Dave, and if I may, in terms of the parade, honestly, there's not much more I can tell you, or there's not much more to it than what I told you. It was just that the fact that the students unfurled this particular banner, I don't know if it was even as much political as it was, look, this is supposed to be a celebration of graduation, not an event that has any political overtone or undertone to it. And it basically, I think, led some parents and students who were sitting on things that had bothered them to then bring it to our attention, and that's what we had to react to. And again, I can't go into great detail about the things that bothered them. I can tell you that they were, you know, addressed by us and by the police, and there was, I think as Rob can tell you, there was no thought that there was a criminal issue, students weren't at risk, et cetera. But it brought to light some behavioral issues that we simply weren't aware of before that and felt we had to address.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jorge?
Hi. Donna, did you have something you wanted to say? Yeah, I saw your hand waving.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Eric, although I was a little surprised and kind of taken aback that we were thrown in that media piece. I do want the school committee to know that we really look forward to working with you for the good of the community. I mean, we're all in this together, just different organizations. But, you know, and I think Sally implied that, and I think you're hearing it from other people. So I was a little bit offended about that one thing, but I absolutely am looking forward to moving forward with you, you know, our two committees for the good of the town, because this has to be, I know not the individual names, but the overall theme has to be addressed in our town.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that, Donna. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jorge.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that this happened. I'm disappointed, obviously. I'm sure, like everyone here, how this gets resolved or, you know, educated away, or I don't even know what the word is, but I'm glad that you all are, you know, involved with this also, and that, you know, we'll be moving forward with some sort of resolution to this, always making strides forward to fight this sort of intolerance. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed. But you know, it is what it is, as some people like to say.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I think we'll figure out some things that we think can help sort of at a ground level, whether it's training, whether it's, you know, there'll be things that we can do. The bigger problem I fear is that something has been let out of the bottle in this country, where people are acting in ways that would have been grossly unacceptable 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and are suddenly not seen as, if they're not seen as the norm, it's getting close. That's a much bigger societal problem, I think.
I think I did call everyone. Thank you very much, Eric, and this committee is looking forward to continuing to work with the school committee and the administration to further our objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
I don't know if Lieutenant Rob Sullivan has any comment, and then he's gonna take it away for the police update.
Sure, thanks, Steve. I can follow up on what Eric was talking about, as well as answer some of the questions that came up during the feedback session. First, as to reaching out to the committee right away, I can explain what happened in this situation. The chief and I have had a number of discussions since I've been appointed to the committee. And he's always had the same opinion that he values working with the committee, the hard work that everybody does, and he stressed to me just how important this is to him. I think it would have been probably a faster notice to the committee. I was out of the office for 2 weeks. So when I came back to work, I had several emails. Dee, you had sent me an email with some screenshots. And as I went through my email chain, the first information had come out, some initial statements had come out, the final investigation statement had come out, and the newspaper had already printed it. So I was probably one of the last people around to hear what had gone on. But had I been here and had earlier input on it, we would have reached out quicker to the committee to keep everybody informed. Everything that Eric was talking about the police cooperation with the school, we worked closely together to figure out exactly what went on. I know Chief Ambrose and Dr. Dana worked on this. and the chief appointed Captain Level. He's one of the senior management members of our department. He was tasked with the person to be the investigator from the police department. And from the police end, while looking at it, trying to assist the school in determining what exactly happened, we also have to look at it from has a crime been committed? And then was a crime committed because of bias? So we did our investigation jointly. And once we were done, we didn't just leave it with, we concurred with the school's findings, but we also brought it forward to the Essex DA's office to ask, have we missed something? Is there something we're not looking at or considering? And the Essex DA's office concurred with the opinion that there was no probable cause to believe a crime had been committed. It might have been bad behavior, but it wasn't something that would have risen to a criminal level. Had that happened, the police would then have had to decide what is the best remedy. Is this a criminal charge situation? And sometimes, even in the case of juveniles, a criminal charge would absolutely be appropriate. But more often than not, especially dealing with juveniles, it would be some type of a diversion or education program, because we're not looking at retribution or punishment at that age. We're trying to find what's best for them and their families and how can we help them. So that probably would have been the outcome of a case like this had it been a criminal level violation. But hopefully that answers a few of the questions as to why there wasn't quicker notification to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? No? Okay. Well, Sally, go ahead.
Just quick, I wanted to thank Rob, and I understand you're constrained by press deadlines and privacy considerations and all of that, but appreciate the sharing. And I know you know that we're simpatico. We all want to work on this together. So.
It can be difficult. I've discussed with a lot of you guys, my background here as a criminal investigator for the town for a long time. It can be hard. Sometimes we hear and see things and we investigate cases and you'd want to run out and go, I can't believe this is happening. It just sometimes we just can't, we can't do that. So we kind of quietly work on it when we have to be quiet about it and try and get the best possible outcome for whatever situation we're presented with.
Bob, any comments?
Yes, I just want to say that the Danvers Police stand-in for George Foreman was absolutely exemplary. And I'm sure that this investigation was thorough and your conclusion was well-founded. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Rob, and thank you, Eric. This committee is going to continue to look forward to working with you all, to make our town more inclusive and accepting. So thank you. I will take the liberty to table the item number 5 on the agenda, which is the website and social media management, to our next meeting. Do I need to get a vote on that, or do I just?
I don't think Sally, I think Sally has a thought. I don't think it requires a vote necessarily.
Okay. Sally, question, comment?
No, I'll move if you need a motion, but if you don't, I think we can just come back to it later.
Sure, I'll table the item number 5, and we're gonna consider the website and social media management discussion at our next meeting.
The only thing I would ask is that we do make it a priority for the September meeting, because the bumper sticker subcommittee does need some information before we launch in October. So I just like to make sure, it does get done that night.
Definitely.
All right, great.
Thank you. Any new business? That's the last item on the agenda. Okay, so no new business. Well, thank you all. I would like someone to make a motion to adjourn. David McKenna is making the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, second by Donna. Okay, so Charles Desmond,
Yes. Approve the motion to adjourn.
Bob Gamer, Bill Graham, Anna Hopkins,
Yes. Aye.
Sally Terrence,
Aye.
Jorge Sanchez Salazar,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. And thank you very much. Thank you all. See you next month on September meeting. Good night, everyone.